Hello, hello. Welcome to today's live English lesson here on the Speak English with Vanessa YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you're here to take time from your busy life to improve your English and hopefully have fun. Today we're going to talk about an important expression, at least. At least. There are a lot of ways to use this expression, but today we're going to talk about the two most common. So make sure that you have a notebook ready to write down some of these sample sentences. Make sure that your typing fingers are ready so that you can type some comments, type some sample sentences, get some feedback from me. And if you're watching the replay, no problem. You can still learn a lot. So thank you everyone who's joining me here live. Thank you so much, Claude, Maiza, Maria, Lacey, thank you. Yusuke, thanks so much for joining me. Patricia in France. In Brazil, Maria, thanks so much for joining. I have not had a live lesson for a couple weeks, maybe 2 months at this point, because my baby was born about a month and a half ago, and I will make a video with him soon enough. I want to introduce him to you. I can't wait to share his cute face with you. He's a wonderful human, but I want to dedicate an entire video to that. So I don't want to mix them. I'll keep you in suspense. And thank you if you're joining me for the first time. Thanks so much. Well, are you ready for today's conversation expression? At least, at least. I want to give you the first question, and let's see how you answer it. Let's see if you can answer it. My first question is, how much do you study English each day? How much do you study English each week? It's up to you. You can choose which question you want to answer. How much do you study English? And I'm going to take your answer and help you use it in a sentence with today's expression, at least, at least. How much do you study? And let's say if you study English, 2 hours per week. Let's say 30 minutes per day. I study English 30 minutes per day, 2 hours per week, 3 hours per day. Horatio says 3 hours per day. Congratulations. Maria says 2 or 3 hours at least. Oh, you've got a good idea about how to use this expression. Well, let's take your answer. 1 time a week, 3 hours a day, 15 minutes a day, 1 hour on the weekend. Let's take your answer and create a sentence using today's key expression, at least. And this is going to be the first way to use at least. Let me take, how about Hamy's expression. Hamy says, I study 2 hours per week. So let's say I study English 2 hours per week at least. Why did I add at least at the end here? This is our key expression here. Does anyone have a guess? What does that mean? At least, at least. Well, here, Hamy said, I study English 2 hours per week at least. So maybe she studies 3 hours. Maybe she studies 10 hours. But the minimum amount of time that she studies is 2 hours. So the first meaning for the expression at least is a minimum, a minimum. So she never studies only 1 week. 2 hours is the minimum. I study at least 2 hours per week. So I want to know for you, can you take your answer that you just said? How much do you study English per day or per week? And can you make a sentence using at least with that? I study 1 hour at least. I study 10 hours at least. I study 15 minutes at least per day. I want to let you know we can put this in different places in the sentence. So our first place is at the end of the sentence. I study English 2 hours per week at least. You're just adding it to the end of the sentence. But you might have heard I used this in other places. I study at least, or let's say English. I study English at least 2 hours per week. We're adding it after the verb, after this first section. I study English how often? At least 2 hours. You're making an expression with the time. At least 2 hours per week. Ooh. I study English 2 hours per week at least. I study at least 2 hours per week. Great. We've got 2 different places we can put this in the sentence. We have wonderful sentences from our friends. Kamir says, I study 1 hour per day at least. I study English 4 hours per day at least. Wow, Maria, great work. Jorge says, I study English 3 hours per day at least. And we can change it to say, I study English at least 3 hours per day. Excellent work. Horatio says, I study English watching Vanessa's videos every day, at least. So minimum of every day. I study English 7 days per week, at least, all day. Wow, you are a dedicated English learner. Let me take this to another topic and ask you another question. And I want to see if you can create your own sentence using at least to mean minimum. So my next question is, what time do you wake up? What time do you wake up? So let's remember that this means minimum. Minimum. And in some situations, maybe minimum feels a little bit vague because time doesn't really go with the minimum. It's not an amount. It's just time. But here we can talk about earlier or later. So what time do you wake up in the morning? Jonathan says 7 a.m. All right. So let's imagine 7 a.m. is when Jonathan wakes up. Well, does he ever wake up at 6:30? Let's imagine maybe sometimes he likes to go for a walk in the morning. So sometimes he wakes up at 6:30. Sometimes he wakes up at 6 o'clock. And the normal time is 7 a.m., but sometimes he wakes up earlier. So we could use our expression today. I'm going to write it down here. I wake up at. Now it seems a little strange to have 2 ats, but it's okay. Stick with me. I wake up at least 7 a.m. All right, we have our key expression, and this shows that sometimes he wakes up earlier. It's not always 7 a.m. His minimum is 7 a.m. He doesn't wake up later. He sometimes wakes up earlier. And the reason why we have 2 ats is because this is a full expression. Wake up at. Wake up at. So you could say, I wake up at 7 a.m. at least. We can add this at the end as well. No problem. So don't feel confused about these 2 ats. They go with separate expressions. For me, I wake up at least 7 a.m. as well because sometimes my baby decides to wake up at 5 a.m. Sometimes he decides to wake up at 4 a.m. One time he decided to wake up at 2 a.m. So I wake up at least 7 a.m. 7 a.m. is pretty normal. Except for today, he woke up at 8 a.m., which was amazing. I could sleep a little bit. But I wake up at least 7 a.m. 7 a.m. is the normal time for me. All right, are you ready to take this to the next level? To go to the second version of at least. The first one is a minimum, is talking about this minimum. The second way is going to be a little more complex, but stick with me. I know you can do it. I would like to share this sentence with you. I'm going to write it over here. We're going to talk about something that is universal. First, let's stick with the weather. It's a common topic. It's something that we talk about in small talk all the time. So I think that there's a chance that you can use this when you talk about the weather in English. And also, I love this second version of at least because it keeps a positive attitude. I know I'm always talking about keeping your hopes up, keeping a positive mindset about learning English. And this second way to use at least is excellent for this. So I'm going to write a sentence here, and I want to see if you can guess what it means. Are you ready? I'm going to write, it's raining today, but at least it didn't rain yesterday. Here we have our key expression. It's raining today, but at least it didn't rain yesterday. What do you think that could mean? We have a kind of negative first part of that sentence, and then the second part, but at least it didn't rain yesterday. This is a sentence that I said last week. Yes, it was last week because we had an amazing total solar eclipse in the US, and I traveled to South Carolina, which is where my family lives, because I wanted to see the total solar eclipse. I didn't want to see 99%. I didn't want to see 90%. In my city, it was 98%, but I wanted to see the total solar eclipse. So I was hoping, please have no rain for Monday, August 21st during the total solar eclipse because I really wanted to see it. It seemed like it would be amazing, and it was beautiful weather. Beautiful weather. The next day, it rained. So this sentence was perfect for me. On Monday, for the eclipse, there was no rain. But on Tuesday, there was rain. So I could say on Tuesday, it's raining today, but at least it didn't rain yesterday during the eclipse. Whew, I feel so lucky. It was beautiful weather. The sky was clear. It was absolutely incredible. So I could say something positive at the end. Here's kind of a benefit. It's raining today, but at least it didn't rain yesterday. At least. What do you think? Kind of like, well, it could be worse. That's a great example. Jonathan says it could be worse. Yes. Well, here's something negative, but you know what? It could be worse. At least it didn't rain yesterday. So I would like to ask you, have you ever hurt yourself, broken a bone, maybe you cut your finger? What is something not so serious, but something that happened to you? Have you ever hurt yourself? I want to help you create a sentence using at least in this kind of negative then positive way. Something negative happened to you. You hurt yourself. For me, when I was in high school, I hurt my wrist. I broke my wrist. So I'm going to make a sentence using that. And actually, I'm going to use a different color because my blue marker is running out. I think I've had so many live lessons that It's finally going away. So this one looks great. Let me write a sentence using something negative. I broke my wrist, but at least it was easy to fix. Here we have our key expression, at least. I broke my wrist is a negative thing. I broke my wrist, but at least it was easy to fix. I went to the doctor. He gave me a cast. A cast is that hard material on the outside of your arm. And after 1 month or 2 months, it was all completely better. So it was a negative thing, but something positive happened. Something better. At least it was easy to fix. It could have been worse. Oh, maybe it could have been difficult to fix, or I had to have some therapy for a while, but no, it was easy to fix. At least it was easy to fix. And as you are thinking about your answers to those questions, I'd like to ask you a more complicated question. Something that you can also answer, but you can answer in any way. I'd like to know, when did you start to study English seriously? When did you start to study English seriously? I imagine that maybe you started to study English seriously as an adult. But maybe you wish that you had started earlier as a child. Wouldn't that be great? If you had started earlier, it would be, maybe a little less complicated or less stressful, but you're an adult, so you have to embrace the reality and try your best. That's what you're doing now. So if you started to study English as an adult, what is a worse situation? Well, you could have started when you were 80 years old, but you're starting when you are 40 years old, when you're 50 years old. So let's try to make a sentence using at least for this. And then I'm going to go back and read some of your wonderful sentences. I started to study seriously when I was, let's imagine, how about 42 years old? I started to study English seriously when I was 42 years old. How can we make an at least sentence about this? What's something that's worse? This is definitely not terrible. 42 years old, you are young, it's not terrible. But let's try to think of a more serious situation. When I was 42 years old, but at least I didn't start at age 80. And if you are 80 years old and you're watching this, welcome. You too can learn English and enjoy it. But let's use this for this sample sentence using our key expression. At least. I started to study seriously when I was 42, but at least I didn't start at age 80. So when we use at least, other people know that this part, you feel kind of negative about it. It implies that there's some kind of negative feeling about it. So you could say, I started to study when I was 42, but at least I wasn't 80. So you're giving some positive feeling about something that is already negative. So for you, I hope that this will help you to have a positive attitude about some negative situations. I'm going to go back and read some of your sentences. So those of you who are here live, thank you for creating some sentences using at least. I'm going to read them out loud and try to give you some feedback. We have a great sentence that Crystal says, I didn't pick it up, but at least my friend picked it up. So let's imagine maybe there is a wonderful watermelon at the grocery store and you forgot your wallet, so you couldn't buy it. And you could say, oh, I didn't pick it up. Pick it up means buy it. I didn't pick it up, but at least my friend picked it up. So now I can go to her house and I can eat it. We have a positive outcome, something else happening. We have a great sentence. I fell down from the roof and broke my leg, but at least I didn't die. Great sentence. And I'm really glad that you only broke your leg. Maybe at that time it wasn't fun, it wasn't something pleasant, but at least you didn't die. Let's take a look at some more sentences that you wrote. I cut my finger. Esther says, I cut my finger, but at least my wrist is okay. Oh, great. So you're seeing a positive thing in a negative situation. Oh, I cut my finger, but at least I didn't cut it off. But at least my wrist is okay. Great ideas. Great ideas. Esther says, I started to study English seriously when I was conscious about the importance of English, but at least I was young enough. So for you, you're imagining, great, at least I was young enough to study English. Excellent, excellent. Claude says, I lost my credit card, but at least my wife didn't find it. Clever, clever, clever. So maybe you're worried about your wife spending all your money. So you have a negative thing. I lost my credit card. But here's a positive thing. At least my wife didn't find it. Excellent sentence. Angelica says, I started to study seriously when I was 17 years old, but at least I kept singing and watching English series in English. So for you, you started at 17, and maybe you feel like that's a negative thing. The first part is our negative situation. And you say, but at least I continued to sing and watch English series and listen to music. So you continued it. Great. You didn't start when you were 5 years old, but you continued when you started learning. Excellent. Excellent. Let's go to a similar idea that I talked about earlier, waking up. Waking up. You said, I wake up at least 7 a.m., at least 7 a.m. So let's try to use a situation like this with our second meaning of at least. So typically, I said, my baby wakes up at 7 a.m. Maybe for me, I feel really tired. It's hard to wake up at 7 a.m. because I've been waking up throughout the night. But what is a positive situation about this? My baby wakes up at 7 a.m., but at least he doesn't wake up at 5 a.m. Oh, it could be worse. So I need to have a positive mindset. My baby wakes up at 7 a.m., but at least he doesn't wake up at 5 a.m. At least he doesn't wake up at 4 a.m. So you're showing some kind of luckiness. Something is lucky about this. Well, we can use this also in another way that I don't recommend. Let's imagine that your friend is complaining about working a really long day at work. Maybe your friend says, oh, I had to work 12 hours today. I had to work all day for 12 hours. If you say, at least you didn't have to work 15 hours, you're trying to show something positive in his negative situation. I don't recommend that. Not because it's bad English, it's good English, but usually in those situations, the other person wants you to sympathize with them. They want you to say, oh, I'm so sorry you had to work so long. Oh, 12 hours is so long. They don't want you to say, well, it could be worse. They want you to sympathize with them. So you could say, oh, I had to work 12 hours today. And if your friend says, oh, at least you didn't have to work 15 hours, I feel like you might be a little bit upset. So if I say, oh, I had to wake up at 5 a.m. because my baby woke up at 5 a.m., I'm so tired. And if my friend says, well, at least you didn't have to wake up at 2 a.m., how am I going to feel? Am I going to feel happy, relieved? Oh, at least it wasn't 2 a.m. No, in that situation, I want someone to say, oh, poor Vanessa, I hope you can sleep tomorrow. I don't want someone to make my situation sound less bad. I want someone to sympathize with me. So make sure when you use this in a conversation, you're using this to be positive and not to put down other people's situations. Well, before we go today, I'd like to say a sentence all together using at least. At least. So if you are in Japan, if you're in Brazil, if you're in Spain, in Italy, in Chile, in the US, wherever you are right now, repeat after me. Our friends around the world are going to be repeating this as well. So imagine a big group of excited English learners talking together. There are at least 300 people saying this together at the moment who are watching live. So imagine 300 people from Colombia, Indonesia, Korea, great, Vietnam, saying this all together. Let's say this sentence using at least. And I want you to write it down in the comments so that you can listen, try to accurately write it, and it's kind of a good dictation practice. Are you ready? It is. I will find at least a few minutes every day to study English. I will find at least a few minutes every day to study English. What does this mean? Well, this is using the first version of at least, a minimum a couple minutes. I hope you can spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours. I hope you can spend longer than a few minutes, but minimum a few minutes. I will find at least a few minutes every day to study English. Can we say this all together? I'm going to say it slowly. I want you to watch my mouth and watch my pronunciation. Try to imitate, shadow my speaking. Are you ready? I will find at least a few minutes every day to study English. I will find at least a few minutes every day to study English. Thank you for saying this from all over the world. Let's shout it out. I will find at least a few minutes every day to study English. I hope it's true for you. And today it is true. You are watching this video. You're studying with me. You're enjoying it, using this material. Great. I hope that you learned how to use at least, and I hope that at least you feel more comfortable using it, because usually with new expressions, we need to hear them over and over again. And now when you hear other people use at least, you're going to know what they're talking about, and hopefully you'll be able to imitate that style, write a lot of sample sentences. The next time that you're speaking in English, use this expression. Even if you write down some sentences that you want to say, great. Just write them down and then say them in your conversation. Be prepared. Use this, repeat it again and again. That's the key. Thank you so much for studying this expression with me. And I'm so glad to share this live lesson with you. I have a quick announcement because it is August 29th. August 29th, 2017. It's almost September. And in September, there's a special anniversary. It is the 1-year anniversary of my course, the Fearless Fluency Club. So because the course has been going for 1 year, I want to give you a special bonus present. So if you are a member of the course now, or if you join the course in September, I'm going to be sharing an extra bonus conversation video lesson with you. Usually each month, there's a conversation video lesson with me and another native English speaker. And then there's a vocabulary lesson, grammar lesson, pronunciation lesson. But there's one conversation lesson topic. But in September, I'm going to be sharing two. There's a bonus conversation video lesson. It's going to be great. I want to share this with you, and you can study it, download it, review it. But this is a special bonus only for people who are members during September. So if you're already a member, great. If you join now and you continue to be a member in September, excellent. You're going to receive this special bonus. I can't wait to share it with you. And if you'd like to continue learning with me, I recommend reading my free ebook, 5 Steps to Becoming a Confident English Speaker. This method will help you to find the best path because there's so many options for learning English. I want to help you find the best way for you to clear away all of the options and know this is what I need to do. Here are some choices for me. Here's the best mindset for me, and to help you really progress. That's the goal. You want to improve, you want to progress. So I want to help guide you in this. I recommend downloading my free ebook. There's a link in the description. There will be a link at the end of this video. And it's my pleasure to share English with you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again soon the next time. Bye.